Welcome back to the course. So far, all the workflows we've built follows a single path. Input comes in, information is processed, and a result is returned. But real workflows often need to behave differently, depending on the situation. Sometimes, what happens next depends on the inputs, or on what the workflow has already found. This is where the if and else node comes in. It allows a workflow to make decisions and allow different passes based on conditions. Okay, let's continue with if and else node. You will see from our last lesson we learned about knowledge retrieval node, but now just jump into the if and else node, which is because the agent, the tools, the question classifier, they seems more advanced, so we put them into phase 2 and 3. So we will introduce it at that lessons. So let's first learn the if and else. You will see that the official document is very easy, but I will say something more about this node. We still create a new blank, open a workflow. Okay, click the if and else node. And before we look at a concrete example, let's first understand how the if and else node works. The if and else node evaluates conditions and decides which path the workflow should follow. It does not generate content, it only controls the flow. An if and else node is made up of 3 parts. So you will see if node and elif node and else node. So we can also call it a if session, elif session, and else session. So for the if section, it defines the first conditions to check. So if this condition is true, the workflow follows the if path. Okay, so elif stands for else if. It is checked only if the previous conditions was false. So the conditions are evaluated in order from the top to bottom. If you do not know the elif, you can go to the official document and search for the definitions. Just right here. Okay, if you know the codings like Python, Java, you will absolutely know what the elif is. Okay, and also the last one, else pass. The else pass is used when none of the conditions are met, so it acts as a fallback. Okay, so each condition compares a value using a symbol operator. Maybe you can click the add conditions files. So you will see here it is the operators. You will see a lot of operators such as contains, not contains, is empty, olive, is not empty, etc. So these operators depends on what the value or what the type of the input is. Okay, so if we put the input here as a text such as A, let's see what it will be. If it is A, the operators may change. Okay, that is an important thing. So now let's look at a very simple example. I will first delete this A. I will choose select as a multi-select questions, and the variable name we just type it as language. The first is English, the second maybe Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, and German. Okay, these 5 languages. And here we want the workflow behaves differently based on the user's language. So the user provides the language as an input. This value is then used by the if and else node to decide what happens next. So right here in the if and else node, for if, I will click the language. So if the language is English, and the second if, we let the language be German. Okay, and let the other three languages in else. Okay, so if the first conditions, the English, is false, the workflow checks the next one. Okay, elif. So we check if the language is German, only one pass executed, which is two passes, okay? So if they are not German or English, it will go to the else pass. This ensures that the workflow always knows what to do next, and the workflow will not get stuck like this. And let's see what we put after the if and else. We just put an output directly, a language, and elif also connect with an output, b language, else is the another output with c language. Okay, and let's see the results. So now we can choose a language. For example, we choose English. Let's see what is the result. English. You see, the workflows goes in the if and else and decide, yeah, the if satisfied, so it goes into the output. Let's try German. Also go to the output too. It satisfies the elif, right? So if we choose some other languages, maybe Japanese, okay, go to output 3, and Chinese, also output 3. That is very easy to understand. And for the output nodes, maybe you're not familiar with it. So how output this node works, I will introduce you in the next lesson. So don't be afraid of it. And that's all for the if and else node. Okay, let's summarize this lesson. The if and else node introduces decision making into workflows. It evaluates conditions, controls the flow, and ensures that only one pass is executed. The if and else node controls the logic, not the content. In the next lesson, we will look at how workflows actually end. We will talk about the answer node and the output node, and why understanding the difference is important. I will see you in the next video.